Thank you all so much for joining us today. This is the Small Wonders 2024 Virtual Awards Ceremony. I am Amani Freeman. I'm your host today. I'm the Exhibitions Manager for Maryland Federation of Art. And I'm joined by our gallery assistant, Juliana Oakes. She'll be running point from Circle Gallery. Just a few words of introductory. MFA is a visual nonprofit organization that hosts more than 40 exhibitions every year. Our mission is to make connections in the local and online communities through art, with exhibits and events in Circle Gallery in Annapolis, Maryland, online, and in numerous alternative venues. We provide artists of all genres, media, and backgrounds with the opportunity to exhibit works selected by professionally credentialed jurors and to be recognized with monetary awards. Artists do not have to be members to enter our exhibitions. However, members do have several advantages, such as lesser entry fees, access to networking, and additional exhibition opportunities. If you're interested in learning more about becoming a member, please visit our membership page on our website. So, just a few words about the exhibition in and of itself. It's called Small Wonders, as I stated previously, and it highlights that life is full of little things that can make a big impact. It's the little details that often come together to form a bigger picture, or in this case, an exhibition of small but wonderful works. This show is for artists who dream big but work small. Work was limited to under 11 inches in all directions, but there was no limit on media or creativity. And we had the honor of having Miss Tatiana Flores work with us as our juror for this show. Ms. Flores is a recipient of the Edgar, Shannon, Jefferson Scholars Foundation, a distinguished professorship in art history. She's also a scholar who specializes in Latin American, Caribbean, and Latinx art. She's authored Mexico's Revolutionary Avant-Garde and curated the acclaimed Relational Undercurrents exhibition in 2017. Ms. Flores has received numerous honors, including the 2016 Art Writers Book Prize, and served in leadership roles such as president of ASAP and senior editor of ASAP/Journal. Her forthcoming work includes the Routledge Companion to Decolonizing Art History. Ms. Flores advocates for marginalized communities through her research, teaching, and curatorial work. At this point, I will hand over the floor to Ms. Flores, and she'll say a few words in introduction. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Amani, and to everyone who's here, thank you for being with us. It's been such a pleasure to get to know Circle Gallery, Maryland Federation of Art, and to participate as somebody who grew up in Maryland. And I'm happy to be back here after spending some years away in New York and Florida, New Jersey. So it's such a homecoming. I started the position at the University of Virginia last year in 2023. So I was really pleased to be invited so soon to participate in a local awards and an art competition. I prepared a statement that I'll share with you regarding my experience and my background. So my father is a collector of miniatures, so I grew up around small wonders. I have always loved work that are intricate and intimate, that impart their wisdom quietly as though they were sharing a secret. I am a lover and scholar of art, but not an artist myself. Because I know that artists have skills and abilities that I lack, I am generous in my appreciation and connect to many types of objects. While certain art historians specialize in one or another medium, such as photography or sculpture, my interests in art are expansive. Walking into the 2024 edition of Small Wonders, which I did on last Friday, was indeed a wondrous experience for the ingenuity, diversity, skill, whimsy, and imagination gathered there. I had never been the sole juror of a competition before, and it was both stressful but exciting. The quality of the work was so high that I found it impossible to select a best in show. I opted to recognize works as through Jurors Choice that achieve the highest level of technical skill across artistic media, combined with arresting and memorable compositions. I commend all the artists for their contribution and dedication to their craft. Art brings joy and connects communities, and artistic visions help us find common ground in these challenging times. So one of the first honorable mentions goes to Mack Gingles with the work Kissy Kissy, which is a really wonderful, surprising piece of braided thread on birch panel. And it's a piece that really spoke to me. One, because the artist statement is really compelling about like having us think about climate change in a shared aquatic future, but also I really intrigued by the way that the lines create these figures, by the merger of the human and animal worlds, and by the placement of the figures in close proximity to each other. I think that it's a piece that is both magical in terms of the content, but also the way that it's made is really intriguing and compelling. So congratulations, Matt Gingles. The next honorable mention goes to Dan Schlapbach for the projection. There are two works by Dan in the show, and they're both equally intriguing. And it's hard to tell on the screen, but they're presented in different kind of layers. And so that the piece signifies differently in person, but it's very powerful in both ways. It's such an interesting technique of a ambrotype, so a sort of old-fashioned photographic method of glass wet plate collodion. And of course, the projector itself is very retro, but then it's combined with digital photography to create this really intriguing image that speaks about kind of old-fashioned technologies and ways of seeing, and then, of course, our contemporary kind of reliance on digital media. Another artist whose work I really that I felt was extremely compelling is Sandra Emme. This piece, Distractions on Black, series number 8, is something that to me was arresting. It made me stop, look, try to figure out what all of the different iconography referred to. Is that a clock? Is that like funny looking animal? It looks almost like cave painting, and of course there's a finger and all of these objects and people and things that look like they could be something, but they could be something else. I found that this is a piece that I could look at for hours and just try to make sense of it, and I really enjoyed the composition on the black paper. It looks like a chalkboard to me too, so it also has this kind of it takes you back to your childhood and thinking about the chalkboard and classroom and a bit of retro. So overall, it was a piece that I found to be extremely interesting and visually arresting. And then by Debra Lee, this piece called Model Minority, or actually it's called We Are Individuals, Not Stereotypes. And then on the circle, the is stitched or stitched the words yellow peril scapegoat in relation to an Asian mask, and then model minority myth in relation to the face of an Asian person. And I found this as an object is a really interesting presentation. There are two works by Debra Lee in the exhibition, and they're both on the, I don't know what the circle is called, but it's the kind, on this stitch, and it's the same presentation. And as somebody who's really interested in figurative art and in thinking about representation and in thinking about in working with people of different minority communities, I thought that this was a powerful piece that really speaks to how we can't ever really know people and how we oftentimes project according to just surface, like how they look or how they present, and we're almost always entirely wrong about them. And so this is something that has a very powerful message with simple means, and that I thought was a really interesting contribution to a figurative visual language. Okay, and so now we get to the jurors' choices, and with the first one is Cecelia Arrington with Stinkhorn Majority. It's this really engaging piece of these five figures who look a little grumpy and a little sort of odd. And as you look at them more closely, the work is very has all these little secrets and details really beautifully rendered. And then one of the secrets about it that we don't see in this picture is that as you walk around the piece, there are these two little kind of pink figures who are hiding behind. They look like tadpoles. They're very funny. And I thought that it was I wanted to make sure that we included sculpture in the final selection, and they're lovely sculptures. And again, I can't emphasize enough how much how difficult the decisions were and how much I enjoyed like the entirety of the work in the selection. But in this case, there was something particularly compelling about these five little figures who are making a reference to fungi, to Stinkhorn fungi, and just the way that they kind of communicate in this very funny, strange way, a little bit like Alice in Wonderland. Another Jurors Choice is Briana Dunn, Breakfast Love. I really love printmaking, and so this is a linoleum print, two-tone or multiple tone, not just two, of a person frying eggs. I think the composition is really fun. I like the egg that's being expertly cracked open. I've never been able to crack an egg with a single hand myself, but I love that it's this translucent color that, as the egg comes out of the shell, but then the one that's cooked is white and seems to have a little bit of crunchy bits on the side. And I just find that it's such a sort of simple task of frying an egg, but that the composition is tremendously engaging. It makes great use of space. It's very direct. It's really a skilled presentation of a wood block or a linoleum print that is also very nicely rendered in several colors. So I really do commend Briana Dunn for this very lovely piece. And then George Kimmerling with two cloud photographs in the exhibition. This is the one that I gave the Jurors Choice Award to, but they're both incredible. And so there's something just so amazing just about, I used to like the one art that I've tried and not really been successful at is photography. And I know what it takes to make in a photograph that is just so well executed, that is so well composed, that has the darkest darks and whitest whites, that looks like a scene that's incredibly difficult to capture, that also produces that sense of wonder around that perspective of that we're floating above the sky, and you sort of get lost in the form. I think it's a really, really skilled photograph. I think it's really interesting that it's such a small scale piece for something that is so vast, and that is something else that I particularly enjoyed about this composition, that being so small, it really speaks to something, the sky and the experience of the cosmos that is so much bigger than us and so much more than we could possibly fathom. So this is one of the pieces that really also spoke to me as an extremely skilled, very well executed artwork. Congratulations. Stacy, Lund, Levy, and I hope I'm not mispronouncing people's names, but Stacy's had two works in the show. They were both watercolor. I selected this one. They're both lovely. I selected this one because I find the composition to be really intriguing. The way that the girls are sort of in between, the surface and the depths of the water, the way that they're all moving and positioned in different directions. The bubbles, I have some experience working with artists who depict the ocean, especially, and because I've worked with Caribbean art, so I'm very familiar with different strategies, and I think this is really a wonderful aquatic piece, and especially so as a watercolor. Watercolor is notoriously difficult medium to work in, and so to sort of make a water piece on watercolor that also captures what just the intricacy of the bodies as we see below the surface, but also that as you look on top, the sort of way that the colors diffuse, and really again point to the very different techniques and different looks that watercolor can achieve, from very, very precise, almost photographic rendering to that amorphous, blobby blobs of color at top. And I really appreciated what a skilled work and this is, and how it's so beautifully rendered. And then Bob Mosier's work. My family, my background is originally Venezuelan American, and in Venezuela, there's one of the biggest sort of the most popular art forms, modern and contemporary art forms, is geometric abstraction. And so I've seen a lot of geometric abstraction, and I typically always think that it's all geometry has been done to death. And I really like figurative art, as I said. But when I saw this Mosier piece, it really stopped me dead in my tracks. And I thought, oh my goodness, it's hard to explain here while we're looking at it, but every single one of those threads is actual thread. It's sewn. I don't even know how it was constructed, but it's not, it's with a sewing machine, but it is sort of full done over threads itself. It's not over like a clear piece of fabric. And so as you look at it, it's both like making a grid, but the grid is simultaneously disintegrating. The way that the knots kind of go in all directions is really novel to me. And so I enjoyed very much the technique. I found it like extremely like fascinating to see how the artist just rendered this so precisely, but also in such a way that is sort of untangling and dissolving before our eyes. So as somebody who's looked at a lot of geometric abstraction, I thought that this was something that I hadn't seen before. I absolutely enjoyed the way that it spoke to me, and I'm also, again, extremely impressed. And so we have I think we've gotten to the end, but so we have textile, watercolor, photography, clay sculpture, printmaking, other forms of photography, painting, and again, the show itself looks lovely in the gallery. I don't know if anyone will be able to go, but I really am so happy to have worked with Amani, with the staff, and congratulate everybody in Annapolis for all the great work that they did. And the artists, again, thank you so much. I'm really happy to now have a chance to be in dialogue with you for a little bit.
Well, that was brilliantly poised. Thank you so much for all the insight into the work. Even just the way that you speak about the work in and of itself, you can really tell that you really took your time with the exhibition. So I'm really very grateful for that. I'm sure our artists are as well. Artists, now is the time. If you have any questions or comments, you can ask Ms. Flores. You can drop it in the chat if you don't want to unmute, or you can feel free to unmute yourself, pose your question or state your comment, and then we can go from there. Like she said, she's excited to have dialogue, so please feel free to engage her in it.
Great. I see some names of artists who won awards and honorable mentions, so thank you for coming. I see some other names of people who are participating, and so I really enjoyed your works entirely. I mean, it's a lovely show, and I'm going to be, visiting every single year to see the new edition. Cecelia, that is just such a fun piece. And when I saw it in person, I was like, just delightful. The way that those little faces communicate in just the smug, weird little
Yeah,
the way is brilliant. Thank you for your contribution.
I guess I would certainly echo that and say thank you for the work that you put into this. It must have been quite something to go through and choose the works to get the show hung and stuff like that. Also, I think photographs of clouds seem really trite to me, so I was happy that I could make some images that kind of broke through what I think is probably sort of an overdetermined category of photography. And I think the scale was one of those ways. And so the show really inspired me to try to work small. And it was nice to see the pieces in the show. So thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you, George. Those are really brilliant set of photographs, and it was hard to choose between the two that were selected for the final exhibition. But I agree that it's and that's what I found so magical. It is a very overdetermined composition subject, and it's been done by like the greatest of photographers as well, like Edward Weston. And so just to have that to bring that sense of wonder, like where was the camera? Like how did you get this? Like were you on a plane? Is it a drone? And you don't have to tell us, but it's but that part of it of like being inside the cloud and having the cloud be both so solid in the piece that I selected and then so amorphous. The other one was so beautiful as well. It really creates this sense of both wonder, but also that expansive cosmos, as I was talking about, within an 11, it's not even 11 inches. I think yours is way smaller than 11. Remind
Yeah.
me of the dimension.
Yeah, the image itself is just 4 by 4.
Yeah, so little. Yeah.
So I wanted them to be really fragment, sort of oriented more than epic. So
Yeah. No, and it worked beautifully. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Kimmerling, for your input into your piece and your comments. Now, is there anyone else that would like to pose a question or statement?
Who else is in the show? Can I see some
We
hands?
have Miss Farrell, we have Chris Newdall, Miss Debra Lee is here, Chris Kelsey, Emil Petrunzio. Forgive me if I'm mistakenly forgetting someone. Oh, Miss Krieger is here. I think Miss Fuller has a question.
Yeah,
Wow.
I wanted to thank the juror very much for taking the time to select the pieces and to award the pieces beyond that. And I was just interested in if you found yourself noticing a particular theme or series of themes. I noticed when you talked about the awards, you talked about the different media, but I just was curious is if there's something that you either started with or ended with in terms of a theme or a thread through line that made you choose the pieces that you chose. And I'll unmute. I'll mute again while you answer. Thank
Uh,
you.
Thank you for the question. So I think I did want to select based on the just astounding technique combined with really memorable image. At the same time, there were a number of landscape works in the show that were really lovely, and especially for Annapolis, some aquatic works. There's a lovely piece with little boats. That is like something that that is a crowd pleaser. There are marshes, there are seascapes, and they were so beautifully rendered. And as I said before, I'm somebody who has a great appreciation for artistic skill because even though I've tried my hand at different crafts and at photography, I was never great. And my sister, sorry, and my father are very manual. My sister's a graphic designer. So they really are so skilled. My grandmother was a seamstress, and I always wanted to learn how to sew, and I just was never good at it. And so because I'm a frustrated artist slash knitter slash, seamstress, I really do appreciate so much when people not only have the talent to bring something to life as you all do, but that you also have the dedication. I think that being an artist is the hardest profession. I've always said so. I think that it's like you really have to convince a lot of people of your vision, because we live in a world that's so instrumentalized around goals and around, career and finance, and, then, what comes next, like you retire and you have to retire this way or that way. And so to spend your time with art is to slow down, to stop like participating in that kind of rat race, or to not do something that is perhaps a social expectation or the pressure that society puts on you. And so I think that to me also is what spoke so much about the works in general in the gallery. The intricacy, there's a beautiful wooden vase that is also, I mean, there's so many works that I just absolutely love from the selection. The other, there are some other 3D pieces. There's a little sort of porcupine woman who's magical. There's a pelican with a fish in its mouth. And just overall, like these are works that I feel a little bit of imposter syndrome in knowing that I can't make anything remotely like anything that could have ever gotten like past the first round, let alone, in the gallery. And so that's my admiration for the work that all of you do. I hope that answers your question too. But I don't know where you live, but I hope you do have a chance to go. It's at least you can see the show online. It really looks nice.
Yeah, I'm planning on going to the reception. Thank you for your comments. And I would just say, if you really do have a desire to do art, that there are no barriers. And we all start out making things we're not happy with. And sometimes we continue for a long time doing that. So it's the interest and the appeal of it, and it gets into your life and you can't let it go. So if you really have a desire, I would encourage you to at least pursue something minor.
Thank you. That's really kind of you. I'm also like I cook Thanksgiving for my family this year, and I like being in the kitchen, but I'm not the chef. Like I follow recipes and I follow cooks, and I select good recipes and they come out okay, but I've always lacked the thing that makes me the chef or the artist. And but luckily I'm pretty good at art history. So that's where I know that I can make a contribution by teaching students, by promoting artists, by advocating and making exhibitions happen, and supporting creative work. And one of the big challenges as a faculty member, as I was talking about before, is getting people to take not only the studio classes, but art history and beyond, like a couple classes like major. Let's all work on this together. The arts are crucial, like their survival. We're so, our life would be meaningless, like if there wasn't beauty and art in our surroundings. So I really do, that's one of the challenges that I have as a university faculty member, is to get people to understand that this is just not some hobby, that this is our oxygen. So again, I'm so grateful to have had this opportunity and to be in dialogue with people like you all.
Well, thanks for what you do to promote the arts and art history, which is foundational.
Thank you. We have Debra Lee who has a comment.
Hi, I wanted to also thank you for selecting my work. I really appreciate it, because it's a topic that I find hard to talk about, but I have found being able to express it through art. I was wondering how many entries you had to go through in order to select for the show, and how many pieces are in the show.
Amani, would you take that one?
Yeah, of course. So the entries we received around 400. And luckily with this show, so normally if you've been in the gallery for our shows, we can only exhibit about 65 based on size. Luckily for this show, since there is a size limit, Ms. Flores was able to select 120 is the maximum. I think in the end we ended up with 113 works on display. So good
Wow, that's a
opportunity.
huge effort. Thank you.
And I think in total there were 79-ish or 80-ish artists that were on display. So we're grateful we could exhibit so many people.
Some of the artists had multiple works, and because the names weren't identified in the first round of jurying, sometimes I would choose more, and then it turned out that I could only choose two. And so it took a little bit of back and forth to figure out that, oh no, like you chose too many, like go back, and that was great too. Just bringing all the variety, the diversity to the conversation. So that was all it was a really thought-provoking process. But what was really amazing was seeing the works, because when you see it on a screen, they all kind of look like the same size. And then so see the photographs printed, some of them were displayed in really creative ways. That the photograph I mentioned, the photographic composite, the Schlapbach piece, had it had this kind of mystery of several layers, or just the frames, or the way of presenting also made a huge difference in terms of how the pieces spoke and communicated. And so that was also very fun. Like seeing the work all together in the gallery was a whole other, like, just uplifting experience. So I'm super happy that we were able to include more. And clearly, like, I just couldn't even come to a best in show, like I said, because I was so impressed with the quality of the work. And I'm very eager to kind of keep following the artists, both the mentions and in general. Again, if I'd had 50 honorable mentions, I would have given them all out. I really did love what the different works that people contributed.
Thank you so much for your insight again. I think at this point, if there's no other questions, I will go ahead and close it out. Ms. Rybicki, I see that you unmuted.
I did.
All right,
Can you hear me?
can hear you.
This is the first time I've used my Zoom on this computer, so you have to bear with me if you can't tell what I'm doing. I just wanted to thank the juror, Tatiana, for selecting my work. It's always, I've been in a couple shows at Maryland Federation of Art, and they're always delightful and they're always beautifully hung. And I'm just very pleased to have been selected, and thank you very much. And I thank you, Amani, for helping me to apply, because I had some difficulties with that too. And I did have one last question as to whether MFA would ever wind up showing these as like you can go into the Louvre and see artworks in the installation and see panoramic views and go through them like that. Will MFA ever be doing that with their shows?
I think based on space restrictions at the gallery, we might not have that capability. I think it's an interesting thing to think about. And we do try to be as forward thinking as we can, and stick, to what we know works well, and stay true to ourselves, but also adapt to the changing, environment in arts and art installations. So never say never, but as of
Okay.
right now,
But thank you, Tatiana. I really appreciate being selected. And I'm grateful that there are people like you that feel like they can't do work, but they have good eyes. And it's great to support the artists. I mean, we need it so desperately. So thank you very much.
No, thank you. I mean, like I said, hardest job in the world, and it takes a special kind of commitment and perseverance, and supportive environment too. I know that a lot of what I do wouldn't be possible without my family, And I know that for so many artists like that you rely on different communities, family members, friends. And everyone around you, like, thank you for, because it's that help and that support system that really makes possible what you share with the world. It's incredible. I really have to say, I can't emphasize enough how, like, I find moving that ability to imagine worlds and to create, and at the smallest scale or at the largest, it's exciting, and it's exciting to be in conversation and to see how people continue to develop and the ideas that continue to come forth. So I hope that I see you all in future iterations. I mean, I won't be the juror, but I will now be a member of the audience going to Annapolis every December to see this show, because it really is something special.
Oh yeah, no, I think that's the perfect closing right there. I mean, I just want to, on behalf of Maryland Federation of Art, thank you so much, Miss Flores. You've been a supreme professional to work with, from the first time we emailed and kind of work out scheduling to see if you could get in. I'm really glad that in the end we did figure it out. I'm very grateful that you took time out of your day to come into the gallery and see the show and choose the awards. I hope that you found the process to be enjoyable, and I look forward to seeing you at future exhibitions. And don't feel shy. We have new exhibitions every month, so you can come to other ones, not just Small Wonders, going forward. But for this one, I do want to thank you so much on behalf of myself, MFA, and all the artists. It's been a real pleasure to work with you. And with that, I think I'm gonna close out today. To all the artists that joined, thank you so much. If you want to watch this back, we're gonna put it on YouTube. If you want to send it to your friends and family so they can watch it, we'll have it on YouTube by Wednesday this week. So look forward for that. And I think that closes us out today. Thank you all again for joining, and I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday.